What goes around definitely comes around, right? You've heard this statement before, or some variation of it to talk about karma. Basically, this notion that whatever we put out into the universe, into the world, through the various stages of our life, will somehow inevitably come back around to us. Maybe not in the same form or the same shape that we committed that action or said that word or thought that thought, but in one way or another, it will come back to us. So if we perform an act of cruelty, maybe that same exact form of cruelty won't happen to us, but we'll experience a different kind of cruelty. And similarly, if we give or do an act of love, we'll also receive an act of love somewhere down the road by some other person. And when you step back and you kind of notice all of these gives and takes, you'll see that life is not a zero-sum game. There's no such thing as winners and losers. Because if you try to take advantage of another person, if you try to do wrong by them, if you try to cheat them, be dishonest with them, do a disservice to them, you're really doing a disservice to yourself. You may not realize it in that moment, but you definitely will somewhere down the road. And if you look really deeply enough, you'll actually see that you're hurting yourself in that very moment. You're not only dishing out the pain and the suffering, but by the very act of you doing so, a piece of your heart is also dying. A piece of your humanity is also dying. And you're suffering, but you don't realize that you're suffering. Instead, you perceive that you are ahead, that you gained something, that you benefited from someone. And so karma is this wonderful way, there's various traditions, various cultures, various forms of religion and spirituality that teach us about karma, or that teach us of things that are related, like the golden rule, right? Do unto others what you would like to be done unto you, right? All kind of playing on the same notion that we are all interconnected, because in truth, we actually are, right? We're no different from the person right next to us or the person across from us. As I was talking to a gentleman this morning, like, it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside, who you are, we all bleed red. Inside, we're all the same. And that's what truly matters. So when we think about how we interact with others, right? Because life isn't this solitary exercise that we get to just kind of live on our own and have no influence at all or no interactions at all with the world around us. Quite the contrary. Every day we're interacting with others, perhaps not even directly, right? We may be thinking about them. If you have a good and positive thought about someone, or if you wish them good things, or if you pray for them, right? If someone is experiencing some form of a difficulty, whether that's a medical issue, whether that's a form of hardship, and you're praying for them, that person might not be in the same room. You're not physically giving that person anything, but through your thoughts and your actions and through your prayers, you are manifesting a form of goodwill, a form of love, a form of compassion. And believe me, that will all come around back to you. And the reason I say this is not so that we can all, take out our scorecards and measure how much good we do and measure how much bad we do, and to kind of tally it all up and see how much we'll get back in return. The point of here is not to keep score. The point of it is that naturally you should be inclined to do these things, right? Because they're just aspects of being a good human. They're aspects of being a good spiritual being. And you want to do it genuinely from the bottom of your heart, right? Because that's the right thing to do. That's ultimately, when you see no difference between yourself and your neighbor, then all of a sudden, there's not even a thought involved anymore. All of a sudden, there's not even a question anymore of whether or not you should help that person or not. It becomes instinctual. It becomes visceral. It becomes something that's immediate and unquestionable. So, I wanted to kind of talk about this topic because I've seen in my own life so many instances where I've done something, and not to toot my own horn, but I've done something that I felt good about. And I already received the reward right there, right? It's not like I was anticipating someone or God or the universe to bring this all back to me, but I did something for someone and I experienced the joy of doing good. But then months later, without even sort of realizing it, so, almost even forgetting about that event, something good happens in my life. And, the natural response would be to think that it's by chance or, happenstance or unrelated to anything. But when I think about it deeply, I start to realize that there are patterns and that every single day that we live is connected with the next, and that there is no such thing as a random event or chance or an isolated occurrence. Just like we're all connected, so too are all of the events and situations of our collective lives, right? Everything is, if you and I try to keep track of it, we'd go insane in a heartbeat. But luckily, we're not privy to all that is going on. Otherwise, we would go insane. Luckily, there is God above us who is orchestrating all of this beautifully, right? Just like a conductor is managing so many different musicians and so many different instruments, God, in his beautiful grace and majesty, is, on the podium with his baton, producing the most beautiful of music and, ensuring that there is complete harmony within the orchestra. And that's how life is. It's not just this disjointed set of events between unrelated groups of people. It's really a symphony. It's an orchestra. And the more you can see the interconnection between you and the rest of the world, the more you see that you too are a part of this orchestra, and that the person across from you is a part of it, and that the person next to you is a part of it, and that everywhere up and down, left and right of the spectrum, there are people, there are events, there are situations, there are opportunities, there are challenges that all fall under this umbrella, that all take up space within this symphony hall to produce this music called life, right? I always get amused whenever I ask people how are things going, right, or how's life, or something of that nature. They'll tell me same thing, different day, right? They'll probably use a different word for thing, but you get the picture, right? They're trying to basically say that, all the days kind of blur into one, and that there's no sort of distinction anymore. There's no, perhaps I can even go so far as to say there's not even a meaning anymore, because every day is the same. Once things start to appear the same, once things start to appear normal, we humans naturally tend to assign less and less value to that, right? Instead of being grateful or appreciative, or seeing the intricacies and the nuances of every single day, how no 2 days are the same, we start to just kind of look at it from a general perspective, from a 30,000-foot view perspective, and kind of just categorize it all as one endless blur, one kind of endless motion or rut that we're struggling to get out of. So it definitely requires a bit of introspection and a bit of perception, right? To notice and appreciate these things, to notice the bends and the curves of this journey that we're on. It's not a straight line. It's not a predictable line. And I can assure you very much there's no 2 days that are the same. Just like there are no two people on the surface who are the same. Right? Inside, we are the same. In spirit, we are all the same. But certainly ask anyone what their faith is, or who they voted for, or what they like to eat, and undoubtedly you'll get so many different answers. So the point in me kind of bringing all this up is not to just, I know sometimes I kind of get lost into a tangent here, but the point here is that we are all interconnected. And I'm not just talking about us as humans, but really the entire universe, right? The animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, even objects that apparently have no signs of life, right? They don't breathe, they don't have organs. But if you take your anger out on a chair, for example, and break that chair, well, you may not realize it, but just your anger alone has released something into the world, has released a negative vibration, has released a negative energy that, call me crazy, affects everything else in that room, right? Because everything has energy. Everything, every form of matter can be converted into energy. And just like we are forms of energy, the world around us, both animate and inanimate, are also full of energy. So life is really just a collection of infinite energies kind of bouncing off each other. And that's why when you resonate or attract to a person that gives off positive energies or similar energies, that's really what it is, right? You're gravitated or you're allured by waves and frequencies that mirror your own, or that mirror what you would like to see in your own. And similarly, if you emit those negative energies, you'll also attract those negative energies as well. You may not see it, you may not realize it, but you're definitely receiving it back in one form or another. So it's amazing how having this understanding that we are truly all one can shape all of our future interactions with each other, right? And I think that's one of the beautiful things about this topic or this video is that, at the end of the day, no matter what our differences are, we are more similar to each other than we are different. And I think that's part of the reason why we sometimes do things to harm other people, is because we forget that. We forget that we're all one, right? We get so lost into this notion that we're on an island on our own and that others are out there to hurt us or to get ahead of us or to use us or to take advantage of us, or whatever the case may be, right? We never approach it from the standpoint of being together on the same team. We always approach it, especially here in the West, right? I've seen so many different cultures, I've met so many different people, and definitely there are pockets in the world. There are pockets of people that are, shall I say, more individualistic than others. But generally speaking, I have found, living here in the West all my life and then traveling to other countries, that there is this tendency towards the individual at the expense of the collective. And so that makes it a little bit challenging, because if you're not taught that by society, if you're not taught that by a school system or some sort of an educational system, then you have to kind of learn these things on your own. You have to learn how to see yourself as one with humanity, because it's not ingrained in your day-to-day life as, say, some other cultures in the world naturally do, right? But here, in the States and certainly in other parts of the world, there is a strong focus on the individual, and there's certainly a lot of benefit to that, right? I attribute a lot of positive qualities to that, such as, having that rugged individualism, watching out for yourself, being ambitious, helping yourself grow as a human being. But on the flip side, I can also see some drawbacks, which is you struggle to identify with others. Especially, I feel, in the last few years, with everything that's been going on in the world, we've started to, as people, distance ourselves, not just in forms of space, but in forms of all dimensions, right? We've become more isolated. We've become more insular. We've become more shut off. And I won't attribute that to one thing or another, but it certainly seems like, and I would love to hear your thoughts if you feel that same way too. It feels like we've just kind of gotten immersed in our own bubble. And whereas maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, there was more of that collaboration and unity and harmony, now there's more discord. Now there's more extremes. Now there's more of a me against the world mentality. And that's the situations that can lead to what I call negative karma. Right? When you release bad thoughts or bad actions that ultimately find their way back to you. The goal of life is to do good unto others and to see yourself as one with others and to recognize that by helping others get ahead, you get ahead, right? You don't lose anything by helping someone else out. You might think that if you give someone $100, that you're now $100 short. But our minds are not set up to do the incredible spiritual calculus that tells us that, God's going to reward us with so much more bounty down the road. Perhaps not in the form of financial wealth, but in other forms of wealth, in spiritual wealth, in emotional wealth, in human wealth, and just having that sense of joy, having that sense of abundance that is priceless, that $100 or even $100 million can never give us. So, never view it as if I donate my time, if I donate my money, if I donate my skills or whatnot, that's somehow detracting from me. You never know. It's probably multiplying manyfold behind the scenes. And it's gonna reap, you're gonna reap what you sow. It's gonna show in many forms and in many ways, and you'll just be surprised how much God is always blessing you, and God is always granting you with so much, as long as you continue to believe, as long as you continue to help His people, as long as you continue to be of service, right? Be His messenger, be His representative on this earth. There's this expression in Islam that I really love. It's, when you walk to God, God runs toward you, right? And obviously the expression is meant to say that when you do one small thing for Him or for His people, He'll reward you 10 times more or 50 times more or 100 times more, right? You can't even put a number on it. So karma is not just about collecting rewards. Karma is about doing good for the sake of doing good, for not collecting any reward at all. But the beautiful part is God will never leave you hanging, right? It's not like you just do good and you do good and you do good, but then you feel empty inside. If you do, perhaps something is wrong there. Perhaps you're not doing good with the right intentions or with the right mindsets or with the right expectations. When you do good and you do good and you do good, naturally if you think of it as like a vessel, naturally the vessel gets filled up and it's filled up to the brim. And actually it gets so full that it's just overflowing at this point. You have so much joy. You have so much happiness. You have so much peace that you don't need anything else anymore. The reward is the doing, as I was alluding earlier. The reward is the giving. The reward is the being, right? Just being on this earth without doing anything else, without picking a career path, without moving anywhere, without climbing the corporate ladder, without being a success and having children or grandchildren, just being here is the greatest blessing there ever is. No matter what adversities you have, no matter what challenges you have, that's the joy. And I think that's sometimes, something that we often struggle with. We chase the destination a lot. We don't realize there's so much beauty in the journey. So I know I throw a lot of things out there. Maybe not all of them are directly related to this notion of karma, but I hope you kind of get the picture. I hope you kind of walk away from this video. Probably you already knew this, but perhaps just reinforcing this notion that we are all interconnected. We are all one. Nothing you do is ever isolated. Nothing you do is ever in a vacuum. It touches people in so many different ways that you nor them can ever even imagine. And perhaps it doesn't even touch the people you see, right? This video, for example, I produce it, I shoot it, I upload it. Some of you comment, and that's great. I love hearing the feedback. I love hearing the responses. But many of you don't, and many of you watch it, and there might be a portion of you that really enjoys these videos and finds a benefit from them. And that's just further validation for me that there is such a thing as doing good and not seeing the reward for it, but just being happy and positive and fulfilled that you are providing something to the world, right? Without any sort of expectation at all. So take of that what you may and what you will. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed, sharing some of my views on this important topic. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to drop them in the comments below. As always, I love to read them and comment. And also, please don't hesitate to drop a like. The algorithm really loves that. As you all know, I've been producing videos now for the past nearly 4 years, and I would love to continue to be able to do this. And one of the ways that I can be able to do this is if more and more people get exposed to this content, people that actually want to, see this content, that are looking for a spiritual solution that talks about applying spirituality into their day-to-day life, right? Spirituality is not something that you do in your spare time or as a hobby. Spirituality is your life, right? They're all interconnected. No matter what your faith is, no matter where you grew up, no matter where you live, what your politics are, what your views are, spirituality touches all of us. And that's truly one of my goals here, is to really produce this platform for everyone, regardless of your walk of life, how old you are, anything. Those sort of identifiers don't really matter to me. What matters is that we're all progressing. We're all moving together as one. And in the words of Ram Dass, we're all guiding each other back home. So in the spirit of guiding you all back home and guiding myself back home, I wish you a wonderful day and week ahead. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.